title, Mindfulness Techniques for English. Welcome back, language lovers, to the How to Better English podcast. I'm Liam, and I'm ready to dive into a topic that is going to revolutionize the way you approach your studies.
And I'm Emma. Liam, I agree. Today we are stepping slightly outside the traditional grammar workbook and vocabulary list, but trust me, this is foundational stuff. We're talking about mindfulness techniques for English.
Absolutely. Before we get into how centering your mind can center your English, we have to do our favorite part, which is connecting with all of you.
Yes, please. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and give us a like wherever you are listening or watching. It helps immensely and ensures you never miss one of our episodes.
And more importantly than the clicks and the buttons, we genuinely want to hear from you in the comments section. We read every single one, and we love seeing where our listeners are based. So today, here is our specific question for you. What is your main, number one goal for learning English this year? Is it to pass an exam, to travel confidently, or maybe to communicate better at work? Tell us.
Knowing your goals helps us tailor future content, and it creates a wonderful global community right here in the comments. We are very pleased to read your comments, so don't be shy. Tell us where you are tuning in from today and what you are striving for.
Perfect. Okay, Emma, let's talk about mindfulness. When people hear the word mindfulness, they often picture someone sitting cross-legged, humming on a mountaintop. How does that connect to improving my ability to conjugate verbs?
That is a brilliant question because the image we have is often too spiritual or too complicated. At its core, mindfulness is simply paying attention on purpose without judgment. When we apply this to language learning, it's about bringing clarity, that's one of our key vocabulary words for today, to our learning sessions.
Clarity. I like that. So, instead of passively looking at a flashcard while thinking about what I need to cook for dinner, I'm actively, consciously absorbing the information.
Exactly. Think about how much time we spend studying while our minds are actually somewhere else. We might spend an hour studying, but only 10 minutes of that time is truly focused. Mindfulness techniques help bridge that gap, maximizing our mental presence.
So, where do we start? If I'm sitting down for my 30-minute English practice, what is the first mindful technique I should try before opening the book?
We start with an anchor, and the most reliable anchor we have is the breath. This is known as focused breathing. Before you even open your textbook or click play on your audio lesson, I recommend a 3-minute transition period.
3 minutes. That sounds achievable.
It is. Find a comfortable seat. Close your eyes or just lower your gaze and simply notice your breath. Don't try to change it. Just feel the air coming in through your nose and out through your mouth. Notice how your chest or belly rises and falls. This act of conscious breathing pulls your attention out of yesterday's problems or tomorrow's worries and firmly grounds it in the present moment, which is the only moment you can actually learn in the present moment, which is the only moment which is the end for look up.
That instantly makes sense. It's like clearing the clutter from the desk before you start the real work. If I can achieve that initial clarity before I start my grammar session, I'm already ahead.
Precisely. And this is especially important for language learners because language learning often triggers anxiety. We worry about making mistakes, we worry about understanding native speakers, or we feel frustrated by the speed of our progress. Anxiety, biologically, shifts resources away from the prefrontal cortex, the learning center of the brain, and into the fight or flight system.
Which means the more stressed I am about learning, the less capable my brain is of actually learning new things. That is a vicious circle.
It is. But that simple breathing exercise we just talked about is a proven rapid way to downshift the nervous system. You lower the cortisol, the stress hormone, and you tell your brain, it is safe now, we are here to focus.
So, let's talk about the vocabulary we flagged. We mentioned clarity. How about meditate? Does doing this breathing mean I am technically meditating?
Yes, absolutely. The word meditate simply means to engage in an exercise designed to encourage calm, relaxation, and inner stability. You don't have to be sitting for an hour. That 3-minute focus on the breath is a form of active meditation, preparing your mind for study. We are using meditation as a tool to enhance concentration.
Okay, so preparation is key. But what happens once I'm actually in the middle of a study session? We are all familiar with the experience of reading a page, finishing it, and realizing we absorbed nothing. Our mind was elsewhere.
That brings us to our third key vocabulary word, distraction. Distraction is the arch nemesis of learning, and the only way to combat distraction is not by fighting it aggressively, but by recognizing it gently.
That sounds counterintuitive. If my mind wanders, shouldn't I snap back into focus immediately?
Snapping back often just adds frustration and guilt, which creates more stress. When practicing mindful learning, if you notice your mind has drifted, maybe you started thinking about the movie you watched last night, or perhaps you began mentally writing an email, you simply observe that thought. You might mentally label it, that's a movie thought, or that's an email thought, or that's an email thought.
So, I acknowledge the distraction.
Yes, you acknowledge it without judging it. And then, here is the crucial part, you deliberately, gently bring your attention back to the specific English task at hand, the word you were reading, the sound you were listening to, or the sentence you were constructing.
That practice of pulling the mind back is actually the exercise itself, isn't it? It's like a mental workout.
Precisely. Mindfulness isn't about achieving a state where you have no thoughts. It's about developing the muscle to redirect your attention when thoughts inevitably arise. And the more you practice pulling your attention back, the stronger your focus becomes during your English sessions.
Let's apply this to specific skills. How does present moment awareness enhance my vocabulary retention?
Retention is fundamentally linked to the quality of attention you give the material when you first encounter it. If you encounter a new word, say, elucidate, and you are mindful, you aren't just reading the letters, you are fully experiencing the word.
What does fully experiencing a word mean?
It means engaging multiple senses and associations. You read elucidate. Mindfully, you notice how the word looks on the page, the length, the shape. You say it out loud and listen to the sound it makes, the rhythm, the stress. You fully absorb the definition, perhaps linking it to a mental image or a personal memory where you needed to make something clearer.
So, instead of rushing through a list of 10 new words, I'm spending time fully inhabiting just 1 or 2 words, creating a rich sensory file for that new concept. That depth must aid memory.
It absolutely does. Superficial attention leads to superficial retention. Mindful attention creates neural pathways that are deep and well established. This is the application of clarity and action.
What about listening skills? That's where many students struggle, especially when listening to fast native speech.
Mindful listening is perhaps one of the most powerful applications of these techniques. Think about what usually happens in a conversation. While the other person is speaking, our brain is frantically doing 2 things, translating what they just said and preparing our response.
That's totally true. I'm already formulating my clever reply while they are still finishing their sentence.
And in doing so, you are only half listening to the rest of their message. Mindful listening requires you to drop the pressure to respond immediately. It means committing 100% of your mental capacity to receiving the sound. Focus on the actual sounds, the intonation, the rhythm, and the nuances of the speaker's voice.
So, I listen purely to understand, and I let the response form organically after they finish, not during. That seems like it would reduce performance anxiety significantly.
It does. When you are truly present, you reduce the internal noise, the self-criticism, the fear of misunderstanding, and you allow the language input to flow naturally. The skill you are building here is patience. The patience to wait for the complete message.
That's fascinating. Let's talk about speaking practice. For many learners, speaking is the ultimate source of anxiety. How can we use meditate and mindful techniques to make speaking less stressful?
The speaking challenge often boils down to a fear of error, which triggers that fight or flight response we mentioned earlier. The moment you feel that panic rising because you can't find the perfect word, your brain locks up.
that classic brain fog moment.
Exactly. Here, mindfulness serves as an observer. When you hesitate, instead of letting the panic spiral, use a micro moment of mindfulness. Take a conscious breath, just one, and notice the feeling of panic. Observe it, label it, I feel panic rising, and then consciously let it go.
I observe the feeling rather than becoming the feeling.
Yes, and that momentary pause often buys you just enough mental space for the correct word to surface, or for you to gracefully rephrase your sentence. It introduces intentionality into the pause, rather than letting the pause be dictated by fear.
So, the goal isn't to eliminate mistakes, but to accept them with clarity and composure.
Precisely. If you make a mistake, a mindful approach means you observe the error without the immediate reflexive judgment, I am bad at this. Instead, you treat the mistake as information. I used the past perfect incorrectly. I will note that and move on. This detachment prevents the error from derailing your confidence and leading to complete withdrawal from the conversation.
This sounds like integrating wellness into our English routine. We're using our mental state as a tool, not just something we have to overcome.
That's a wonderful way to put it, Liam, and we can apply this to dealing with distraction in the modern world. We are constantly studying with our phones beside us. How can mindfulness help us manage the temptation of notifications?
That buzz or flash of light is almost irresistible. It completely fractures my focus.
It does. And most of the time, we aren't even aware we've picked up the phone until we are scrolling. The mindful approach requires establishing boundaries with intention. Before your study session, perform an intentional act, physically placing your phone in a drawer or another room. Don't just place it face down next to you. Physically distance yourself from the potential distraction.
That seems like an act of self-respect for my learning time. I am consciously prioritizing my goal.
And if you still feel the urge to check the phone because the impulse can be very strong, practice the observation technique again. Acknowledge the craving. There is the urge to check social media. Sit with that feeling for 30 seconds and usually the impulse subsides enough for you to redirect your attention back to your English material.
That connects back beautifully to what you said about using focused breathing to achieve clarity. They all work together. Let's expand on the concept of longer-term mindful learning. Say, preparing for a major English exam like the IELTS or TOEFL. The pressure is huge.
Exam pressure is immense because the stakes feel so high. When preparing for an exam, learners often fall into feverish study, long hours, fueled by anxiety and caffeine, where the learning efficacy drops significantly after the first hour or two.
I know that feeling, cramming information late into the night.
Mindful preparation means scheduling short, highly focused study blocks, perhaps 45 minutes followed by a mindful break. During that break, you don't check social media or watch TV. You might engage in a brief walking meditation, walking slowly, noticing the sensation of your feet on the ground, or simply looking out the window and naming what you see in English.
So, the break is restorative, not just another form of passive input or distraction.
Exactly. And during the actual exam, mindfulness is critical for managing test anxiety. If you hit a question you don't know, instead of panicking, you use the anchor, one deliberate breath. This simple action interrupts the stress cycle. It helps you recognize with clarity that panicking will not help you remember the answer, but focusing on the next solvable task will.
This is brilliant for test taking. It moves the student from reacting emotionally to responding deliberately.
And let's talk about the specific concept of body scan meditation as it relates to posture and energy for learning. Many of us study hunched over a desk, which constricts breathing and energy.
I notice my shoulders are creeping up toward my ears right now as we talk about stress.
A brief body scan involves closing your eyes and mentally traveling through your body, noticing any areas of tension. You might start with your feet, move up to your legs, your hips, and finally, your shoulders and jaw. When you notice tension, say, in your jaw, which often happens when concentrating, you consciously soften that muscle.
And how does releasing jaw tension help me understand relative clauses?
By releasing unnecessary physical tension, you conserve energy. Our brains are incredibly energy-hungry organs. If your muscles are constantly fighting tension, that's energy being diverted from cognitive tasks like processing complex grammar rules. Physical ease supports mental ease, leading to greater clarity.
That sounds like you're optimizing our entire system for learning, not just the eyes and the brain.
That's the core idea. Let's consider fluency practice again, specifically conversation. Many learners worry about sounding perfect. Mindfulness helps us move towards sufficiency.
Tell me more about sufficiency in speaking.
When we strive for perfection, we often delay speaking because we are waiting for the ideal phrase. This leads to long, awkward silences. Mindful speaking means accepting that your current language level is sufficient for the task at hand. It means speaking with the words you have now, rather than punishing yourself for the words you don't yet possess.
It sounds like an act of self-acceptance within the learning journey. I don't need to be Shakespeare today. I just need to convey the message.
Exactly, and that acceptance reduces the mental pressure, paradoxically often allowing for smoother, more fluent communication. Remember, mindful communication is not just about what you say, but how present you are when you say it. Are you making eye contact? Are you genuinely engaged with your conversation partner? Or are you caught up in your internal script?
So, integrating these techniques isn't about adding another hour to my study schedule. It's about making the time I already have intensely productive.
Precisely, we call these micro moments of mindfulness. You don't always need to sit down for a formal meditate session. You can inject mindfulness into everyday English tasks.
Give me an example of a micro moment.
Let's say you are walking to your English class. Instead of listening to music or reviewing notes frantically, try a mindful walk. Consciously describe what you see, smell, and hear in English. The sky is overcast. I hear the sound of a car engine. The coffee shop smells strongly of roasted beans. This keeps your English processing active while grounding you in the present reality.
That makes the world a classroom rather than just the four walls of the study space.
And it tackles distraction head-on. If your native language thoughts start creeping in, you simply redirect them to descriptive English sentences. You are using the technique to enhance the skill.
I think one of the biggest psychological hurdles for learners is inconsistency. We feel motivated for 3 days, and then we drop off for a week. Can mindfulness help with motivation and consistency?
It certainly can. Motivation often comes and goes, but commitment and discipline are what sustain long-term learning. Mindfulness fosters discipline because it trains the mind to do what you intend it to do, even when it resists.
When I feel that strong resistance, the impulse to quit the lesson early because it's difficult, how does mindfulness help me push through?
That resistance is just another thought or feeling you can observe. Instead of saying, "This is too hard, I hate grammar," you observe the feeling, "I am feeling resistance to this difficult material." Then you ask yourself, with clarity, can I do just one more paragraph? By focusing on the smallest possible next step, you bypass the overwhelming feeling of the whole task.
Breaking down the perceived mountain into manageable steps.
And celebrating the small victory of completing that one extra paragraph. Consistency often fails because we try to leap too far, too fast. Mindful consistency is about showing up fully for a short, sustainable period, day after day.
Let's touch on one final skill, mindful reading. We talked about vocabulary, but what about complex texts, like articles or novels?
Complex reading requires sustained attention and dealing with moments where you don't immediately understand every word or phrase. The non-judgmental aspect of mindfulness is crucial here. When you hit a difficult sentence, a learner usually reacts with internal impatience. Why can't I understand this?
Which again takes resources away from actually decoding the sentence.
Right. Mindful reading means pausing at the point of confusion. Take a breath. Look at the surrounding context. Read the sentence again, slowly, noticing where the difficulty lies. Is it the vocabulary? The structure? You approach the difficulty with curiosity, not frustration. You allow yourself to be confused for a moment, knowing that confusion is simply a temporary stage before understanding.
That's a huge shift in mindset. Changing the perspective from confusion is failure to confusion is the starting line of understanding.
And this helps minimize the impact of distraction as well. If you are reading and your mind starts thinking about how long the chapter is, that's a distraction. Acknowledge the thought and consciously bring your visual focus back to the exact line you were reading. You anchor yourself back to the text.
Okay, so this requires practice. Just like grammar or verb conjugation, this isn't something that happens overnight.
Absolutely. It's a skill set. And the beautiful thing is that the skills you use to develop mental clarity for English-focused breathing, present moment awareness, non-judgmental observation are the same skills that improve your overall mental wellness. So it's a double benefit.
And for listeners who are skeptical, maybe thinking this is too soft or too new age, what is the scientific argument?
The research is robust, Liam. Studies show that regular mindful meditation practices actually increase the density of gray matter in brain regions associated with learning, memory, and emotional regulation. Specifically, the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. It literally makes your brain better at learning. It increases sustained attention capacity and reduces the negative emotional reactivity that hinders information absorption.
So, by taking 3 minutes to focus on my breath before my English session, I am chemically and structurally preparing my brain to be a better English learning machine.
You're optimizing your hardware. It's the ultimate learning hack, but it requires consistent effort. We aren't just talking about motivation, we are talking about neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to change, and mindfulness is a potent driver of that change.
This has been incredibly insightful, Emma. It provides such a grounded, practical way to integrate mental wellness into language goals. It elevates study time from a chore into a focused, intentional practice.
I hope our listeners realize that the goal isn't perfection, it's just consistency and present moment awareness. Start small. Try the 3-minute breathing exercise today before your next English review. That's all we ask.
Okay, fantastic. Let's quickly summarize our key takeaways and vocabulary before we wrap up.
We focused on 3 core vocabulary terms today that integrate wellness and learning. First, clarity, seeking clear, focused attention during study sessions.
Second, meditate, recognizing that conscious breathing or body scans are acts of meditation used to prepare the mind and improve focus.
And third, distraction, acknowledging distraction when it arises, labeling it without judgment, and gently redirecting our attention back to the learning material.
The key techniques we covered were focused breathing to anchor the mind, and present moment awareness to fully absorb new material, whether you are listening, reading, or speaking.
And remember, approach errors with curiosity, not criticism. That is the essence of non-judgmental mindfulness in language learning.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Emma, for walking us through these powerful techniques. This episode is definitely one I will be listening back to myself.
My pleasure, Liam, and thank you to all our listeners.
Yes, thank you for tuning in to the How to Better English podcast. Don't forget to tell us in the comments what your main English learning goal is this year. We can't wait to read them.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep breathing, and keep learning with clarity.
Goodbye for now.